Hey everyone, welcome to today's stream. Wow, today we're going to be talking about job and some job search strategies, which I know I've covered in the past, but sometimes you learn some new things. So today I'm going to go over some exciting new tips. I'm going to go over some of those tried and true tips, reassure you that those are still working. And we're going to talk about some things that I have seen that just need to be tweaked slightly that I think will give you some better odds of finding a job in medical billing and coding. If you're new here, hey, say hi in the chat. I'm Victoria Mole. I'm a medical coder, author, educator, and content creator, and I create lots of helpful content in regards to the medical billing and coding industry. So if you're here, say hi to your friends in the chat, and let's get started with today's stream. Hey everyone. So, those of you that have been with the channel for a while know that I have had a theme song that I sort of retired, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago. Because I got too many people saying that they didn't like that they had to be interrupted or that it was too loud. But I do like to still use the theme song for the live stream, and I just updated it recently. So love to hear some feedback on what you guys think about having the theme song back for the live stream and update it as well. So a lot of times on the live stream, we're here to kind of ask questions and talk about things that are pertinent that are going on in the industry. Right now I usually get a lot of questions about exams. Our uh, ICD-10-CM books update on October 1st, and they're going to be shipping out soon. So a lot of people are like, "Hey, like, can I still use them for the exam?" But today I kind of want to focus on job strategy and talk about medical coding jobs. Um, First and foremost, I want to say, this is one of the prominent things you hear about this industry, and it's certainly not limited to medical billing and coding. But, I think because this industry in particular has such a low point of entry, it's not something where you need an associate's degree, it's not something where you need a bachelor's degree. I think there's a lot of people that go through short programs, right? And then they are very frustrated when they're done because they can't land a job. And of course, we wind up in that circle where it's like, hey, everyone wants experience, but I can't get experience because I can't find a job. So I'm actually working to get with some of my recruiter friends and stuff to bring some additional information and help supplement what they're talking about soon too. So, without further ado, right? Let's get into it. So I put together a couple of slides. Let me share my screen over here. Second screen camera. Boom. There we go. So today I'm calling it Get Hired, Not Tired, Your Guide to Landing Jobs in Medical Coding. There we go. So let's talk first about, what is it that employers are looking for, right? First and foremost, we're looking for certifications. Most medical coding jobs, they're going to require some kind of certification. Medical billing jobs don't typically have um, a requirement of a certification, but it will look better if you do have one versus perhaps someone with the same qualifications who does not have a certification. The two main certifying bodies that everyone looks for, AAPC and AHIMA. Those are like our Coke and Pepsi, not saying that other organizations aren't beneficial, not saying you can't, uh, get certifications from them, not saying you can't also get both certifications through AAPC and AHIMA, but those are the ones that employers are familiar with, so they know that they have that brand quality behind them. They don't always know the best about some of these other organizations that are out there, and when you are looking at the job listings out there, those are the certifications that they will say for medical coding jobs. They want either from the AAPC for if it's profi coding, they're looking for the CPC, or they'll take like a CCSP through a HEMA. Yeah, if it's an inpatient job, they will probably be looking for the CCS through a HEMA. Sometimes they will take an RHIT, and we are starting to see more employers that are coming on board with the CIC, which is the APC's inpatient coding equivalent. They're also gonna look for a professional resume, something that's up to date, something that's not too long, something that has uniformity to it, that you're not changing fonts 15 different times. They want you to have a little bit of knowledge about the company, right? And we'll talk more about that when we talk about some of our interview strategies, but that's what they're gonna look for. They're gonna want you to know not everything about what's going on in the company, but they want you to have maybe looked up their mission statement. They want you to know, what kind of things maybe they do at that in that, company, and, why you wanna work there. And then self-motivated learners. It's it's sad to say, but I think one of the reasons we see some of the frustrations in regards to finding jobs in medical coding is because a lot of organizations are running around with their pants on fire and in this constant reactive state. So, because they're constantly having to just put out fires and react, they don't have that time or don't feel that they can provide that time to sit and train someone who does not have experience. Too many people are looking for someone who's hitting the ground running. So one way to combat that is to prove that you are a motivated self-learner, that you are someone who's like, "I can figure this out." And we'll talk about some of the questions that they're gonna ask you in interviews that might test you on them, and the questions that they're asking is basically them trying to evaluate how self-motivated you are, how much you're gonna be able to learn on your own versus how much you're going to try to lean on people within the organization. Accuracy and speed, that's a big thing, and that's not something you need to worry about when you are a new coder. If you're a CPCA and it's your first job, they're going to be giving you some time to get up to snuff on your speed and accuracy. What they're gonna want you to focus on first and foremost is your accuracy and then pick up the speed after a certain period of time. Usually there's like a probationary period of, 3 months or so. So they're not gonna ask you to code 20 E&Ms in an hour on your first week, but they might give you a goal like that to work up to. As far as how many charts an hour, it's hard to tell because so many different organizations work with different systems that they might be faster or slower. It depends on the type of coding you're doing. It depends on what kind of tools you're using. So I have so many people that ask, "Hey, well, when I become a medical coder, how fast, how many charts will I need to complete an hour?" It depends so drastically. I couldn't even give you a ballpark. Um, and we talked about experience. A lot of them are looking for a certain number of years of experience, but if you don't have experience, you need to be able to demonstrate your eagerness to learn and your ability to learn and problem solve on your own. Not saying I agree with it and that I don't think there would be better if everyone had a stronger mentoring relationship within all these departments. But if you're looking to set yourself ahead and looking to give yourself the best opportunity, you need to demonstrate that you are eager to learn, that you're able to self learn. Alicia's coming in here with the questions. She says, "Is just having a CCS certification enough to land a job?" I think it's the right step, but of course, the CCS certification is what qualifies you for the job. But you also have to consider things like, are you a good cultural fit? Because someone could have their CCS certification, but they could be just have a really negative attitude. They might not be able to pass a personality assessment. Maybe they don't have a really good resume. They just don't have a good strategy there, or they don't interview well. It could be maybe that they are very unprofessional, or maybe they're nervous and it comes off very wrong. So while that is going to qualify you for the job, it doesn't necessarily guarantee you that job. There's still a lot of factors that go into it. All right, I need to add some more buttons here because I used to have one where I could move myself to the side. Let's do this instead. So, education and certifications. One of the cool things about medical coding is that you do not need a degree. I've had some people ask me recently about, like, high school diplomas, like, do you need to have a high school diploma or a GED to work in medical coding? So here's the skinny on that. We have people that have passed the CPC, the Certified Professional Coder examination, that don't have a high school diploma and they don't have a GED. Here's the situation though. A lot of these jobs, when you go to read the qualifications, they're going to put in there that you need a high school diploma or you need a GED. So even though you've maybe passed the CPC exam, they are still looking for someone who has the high school diploma or the GED. We might start seeing some organizations that might make an exception, but as far as that goes, we're still looking at high school diploma or GED in addition to a certification. Let's take a couple of questions here. Would paramedic school experience help with employers? It might because you do have experience working in healthcare. You might know a little bit about EMRs. You already have some med term experience. So it would certainly be more beneficial than having no healthcare experience. Amima is saying, I have the CPCA from AAPC. That's awesome. Can you recommend a company for resumes? Yes. So projectresume.net. So projectresume.net is specialized for medical coders. And I send a lot of my viewers there. And if you ever have issues with anyone that I recommend to you, please, please let me know because I work very closely with the companies that I do have these relationships with. So if there is a problem, I need to know because I need to work with them on it. But I have heard nothing but good things about Project Resume. So projectresume.net. Also, I think she's booked up right now, but check also with Sarah Reagan, Sarah, and then her last name Reagan, Ragan. I think she's on LinkedIn and then on Facebook as well. Like I said, I think she's booked up for a while, but she does really good resumes too. Oh, Stacy. See, Stacy's saying she just used Project Resume and they're great. Awesome. Yeah. So let's get back into it. Um, Externships help. So if you can get into a training program for medical billing and coding that has an externship, that is an excellent way to get some experience in the field. A lot of these organizations, though, now have these like mock internships where they're not really an internship or externship. You're just kind of coding cases or going through modules or kind of fake scenarios versus when you're actually sitting in a hospital or working through a virtual internship. Um, the company that I recommend for medical billing and coding training is Preppy. You can find out more about them at medicalcodingmasterclass.com. But I work very, very closely with them. And one of the reasons that I send a lot of my viewers there is because they do offer externship programs. So not only do you get a college certificate and you get on-demand training and they give you a great price, they also offer externships, which is so critical in this industry. Now, if you did not go through a program like that and you are looking for an externship, um, you can check AAPC Project Extern, and sometimes they do have some, but it's very regional. So I will show you what that website looks like. There we go. So this is AEPC's Project Extern. You can use the button here to locate an externship site. I'm actually going to take this and link it in the comments for any of you that maybe are looking for an externship and having trouble locating one. And they do have a mentorship program at the AEPC as well. And I think they've been trying to work more to promote that. The AAPC mentorship program isn't supposed to be so much a uh, tell me how to code all of the things program, but it is more so a career assistance type of program, hooking you up with someone that can point you in the right direction, get you to the right resources. Amima, we will talk about the AAPC apprenticeship status as we're kind of going through the slides here, navigating all my stuff. Okay. Boop, boop, boop. Okay. So we talked about certification from AEPC or AHEMA. That is like super critical as well. A lot of people ask me about grades. The grades aren't as important as there we go, as the certifications themselves. So I've heard people, ask, does it matter if I got all A's or if I got all C's in my tech school program? That usually doesn't come up during interviews. Most people won't ask you about your grades. I've never, as an employer, as someone who worked as a manager of coding, I've never asked someone about their grades. But if you did get like really amazing grades, that might be something, if you were on a dean's list or you got Magnum on your CPC exam, put that on your resume so that it's like another feather in your cap. But as far as if just scraped by, isn't I believe there's a saying, isn't there, in healthcare where it's like, what do you call the guy who graduated with the lowest scores in medical school? Doctor. So kind of the same thing in medical coding. As long as you have the CPC, you're a certified coder. That's what they're looking for. So let's talk about the CPCA. What is the CPCA? So the CPCA is the Certified Professional Coder Apprentice, right? I love Charlotte. Charlotte says C's to get degrees. Absolutely, they do. The CPCA is the apprentice status for the CPC, right? So if you haven't proven to the AAPC that you have 2 years of experience working with the code sets, you are designated as an apprentice coder. There's a couple of ways to remove that apprenticeship status. Um, the traditional method has been to get 2 years of experience, but there's a couple of things that will replace 1 year each, okay? So, you can remove 1 year off your apprenticeship status by doing, Practicode, which is their modules. They're just and it's not supported, and I know it's frustrating, but you have to get through it if you wanna get that year off of your apprenticeship designation. So Practicode is a modules that you purchase with the AEPC. There is no teacher support, there's no Q&As. It's basically, here's a whole plethora of medical coding cases, and they go, here's some boxes for the CPT, the hick picks, the modifiers, the connectors, and you have to guess how many diagnosis codes, how many CPT codes, what they're connected to, what are the modifiers, and put them in. And if you get it all right, like, it's almost like the Price is Right of medical coding, right? Like weird, sick, twisted version of the Price is Right for medical coding. And then you can move on to the next case. But if you don't get something right or you, like, forget a modifier, it's gonna basically sit there and be like, "Yeah, you can't move on." So it's tough. There are Facebook groups that can help you out with Practicode. So, I know some of the I'm trying to so there's been a situation with one of my friends and her organization. Anyway, there are some groups out there that help with Practicode that it's like, "Hey, I've got this case. This is what I'm struggling with," and can have that interaction. So that's Practicode. Practicode can take 1 year off your apprenticeship designation. The other thing that can take a year off is if you do 80 contact hours of medical billing and coding training. That doesn't have to necessarily be from an approved school or from an AAPC instructor. It can be from like one of the colleges near me is like Allentown Business School. And if they had a medical billing and coding program and we could track and get a letter from them that said, hey, I did 80 contact hours of medical coding education and sent that into the AAPC, that will also remove 1 year. So if you want to take Practicode and you want to and if you've gone through a program where you can prove that you had 80 hours of medical coding education, that will basically take off the 2 years and you can remove your A. Now, how does that impact your job prospects if you are a CPCA versus a CPC? Kind of depends. There are some positions out there where they say that you need 2 years experience, and as much as they might say one thing or the other, Practico does not count as 2 years of experience. It counts as 2 years of experience to remove your apprenticeship designation, but in the eyes of employers, it doesn't count as 2 years of coding experience. Where it does come in handy to remove that apprenticeship designation is there are a lot of recruiters out there for various organizations or just HR professionals that are recruiting for these um, healthcare organizations that don't know the difference between a CCS, a CCA, an RHIT, a CPC. They just know they were told to hire CPCs, but not CPCAs, right? So if they get your resume and they see CPCA, boom, gone in the garbage. They were told not to hire CPCAs. But if you remove that A, you might have a better position for those types of jobs where they were told we don't hire CPCAs, but we will hire CPCs. So, and we do see that I think more in some of the project postings that they'll say no CPCAs and explicitly outline that, but they will if you had that apprenticeship designation removed. Jenny's asking, does going to extern help remove the A? It depends. If you get an externship site and you work there for a period of time, that time that you're working in the extern can help for the years of experience. This is a great question. So, will 5 years working in prior authorization at a hospital count in removing the A? What they're really looking for is that it doesn't have to be that you worked in the capacity of a medical coder or that your job was medical coder. It means that you routinely used medical codes in your job and not just like typing in things that were maybe in a super bill or something, but that you routinely used ICD-10-CM book or the CPT book. So if you were working in prior authorization and you were looking up the codes, let's say a patient, is scheduled for surgery, you're looking up, yep, this is the code for it, and you're calling to get that prior authorization or putting in for the portals to get that prior authorization, that could count as experience because you are routinely working with medical code sets. Even though your title wasn't medical coder, you had experience working with the code sets. So it all ultimately comes down to the AAPC's determination, but it is potentially there. Next. So let's talk about job search basics. Excuse me. Um, develop one of the things you can do is start developing some personal branding. I am hoping to speak at the next HealthCon conference about personal branding, specifically for medical coding and health information professionals. One of the things that's going to really help you out is creating an effective LinkedIn profile. There's a lot of jobs out there that you can find on LinkedIn, and you have to have the right strategy in order to use LinkedIn appropriately. Let me make sure that I'm getting to the right parts of my. Okay. Um, some tips in general about LinkedIn. Believe it or not, you have to have a lot of your skills listed. When recruiters go into the recruiting portal and they're looking for candidates and they're like, I'm going to go on LinkedIn and I'm going to look through all my connections and I'm going to find some people that might be good for this job. One of the search tools that they use is your skills. So when you set up your LinkedIn profile, you have to make sure you're filling in your skills. Don't lie and say that you've worked with like Epic or something if you haven't worked with Epic, but if you've worked with any sort of electronic medical record, put in your skills, electronic medical record, EMR, put in there ICD-10-CM, CPT, HCPCS, professional fee coding, diagnosis coding, surgical coding, E&M coding, medical records, electronic health records, anything that you know or have experience with in regards to healthcare coding, CPC, put that into your skills so that when they're searching for something, they can find it. If you're someone who's done surgical coding, put in there surgical coding so that if they're searching for a surgical coder, they'll go surgical coding, your skill is in there and it'll pop up in their search. What I mean by that, and let me just get over here for a second. I want to get into my LinkedIn profile real quick and to show you where those skills are, because that's a critical thing you have to have filled in if you want to be found on search. So here's my profile. All right, let's get a oop, gosh, my live is showing up there. Do, 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 do. Um, so here, like, is my profile, right? And then we have I have almost 16 followers. I need 11 more followers right now on live if anyone wants to get me up to 16,000. So when we're talking about the skills, that's down licensures, volunteering, skills. Okay. So make sure that you are adding in as many possible skills here as you can because they are going to be searching for those keywords in their recruiter portal when they are looking for candidates. The other thing, believe it or not, is whoop, whoop, flipping around here too much. I want to get back into my presentation real quick. Hold on. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, I hate how PowerPoint like brings up 6 different screens. Hold on. From current slide. There we go. I accidentally closed it. That's why. Believe it or not, your profile is 80% more likely to get viewed and clicked on if you have a profile picture versus if you do not have a profile picture. And apparently that also follows suit with if you have a banner on your profile. And you don't have to have like the world's greatest profile picture. You can just snap something like this in some nice natural light. I know that the AI headshots have been very popular lately. That is an option, although I personally am starting to get like, I don't know. I don't find them as interesting as I did. Like when I first saw them, I'm like, oh, this is wonderful. But now I can tell immediately when someone has an AI headshot because there's little things like the hand doesn't look right, or they might be like wearing a piece of jewelry and it doesn't connect appropriately. And you're like, there's like a string hanging out here in like La La Land. Um, so it is an option, but I would just be careful about using the AI headshots too aggressively, and if you're getting different options, make sure you're checking things like that your hand doesn't look disfigured, and that your jewelry doesn't look weird, and that it doesn't look, like, very highly airbrushed. I, personally would just go outside, stand up against a nice tree on a sunny day, and snap the photo. Um, so those are some important things. Banners, I wouldn't say as are important, but if you wanna just cover your bases, you can go on canva.com and you can build a LinkedIn banner from there. Let me see if I can bring it up on my profile here so I can kinda show you. So when I talk about banners, let's see if mine shows up here. I don't wanna glitch my computer because 'cause I'm showing the live stream that I'm on right now. I don't think it'll show on when I'm looking at mine, but if you go into let me show you. Okay. So there's free versions of Canva that you can use, and then there's paid version. So I do a lot of content creation. I have the paid version. But you can just go in here and you want to build something out, you just type in LinkedIn banner and you can build all kinds of LinkedIn banners. There's going to be lots of ones that you can just tweak for free. You could take, let's see if I can find something that's not the little crown ones are the ones that I have paid. But let's say I just want to take this, customize it, and I can go ahead and just for free put my name in here, medical coder, put my email in there, and set that to my LinkedIn banner. And it took me only a couple of minutes, but it's going to bring your profile that little extra shine. Now let's talk about the slides. And connect with people on LinkedIn. So if you want to work for Optum, you want to work for Decision Health, you want to work for the Mayo Clinic, you want to work for your local hospital, connect with people that work in there. All you have to do is just search for that place on LinkedIn. It'll show the employees and just start hitting the connect or the follow button. And I've been reading a lot more about the LinkedIn algorithm, and oftentimes your content will post more if you're engaging more with others. So if someone's posting something about, CMS updates or ICD-10 updates, and you give them a link or you give them a like or you give them a little comment, that will help your content that you're posting pop to the top. So when you're making that post that says, "Hey everyone, I'm open to work," it will show up more if you've been more interactive in LinkedIn. So if you even just want to go ahead and follow me and like my stuff and comment on it occasionally, that will help your profile pop up. Um, What's the other thing I wanted to say? Oh, open to work. There's a button on LinkedIn to do open to work, and you can also click one that says open to work, but just show this to recruiters. So if you're looking to transition from one job to another and you don't want your current job to know that you're open to work, you can have that just show to people that are designated as recruiters on LinkedIn. Other options we can do if we're not a LinkedIn-y person. From current slide. Okay. We can network with our local chapters. One of the cool things about local chapters is a lot of those people that are working in the local chapter are working in the organizations you wanna work at. They're working at your local hospital, they're working in those remote companies, and they will have the heads up when they are going to be opening up new positions, when someone's retiring, when they are getting approved from HR to add additional people. So network with your local chapter. You can find a lot of information about what's going on and who to connect with your local chapter. So, not everyone's favorite topic, but those foot in the door jobs. So I know we went to school for medical billing and coding, and we want a medical billing and coding job right off the bat. And I would love if everyone could do that. But if you're having trouble finding one or you're looking for something area specific and there isn't anything available in your area just yet, oftentimes, employers have to favor an internal candidate versus an external candidate. So if you're working somewhere in the healthcare organization and you can prove, "Hey, I know the names of the doctors that work here. I know the, medical record system. I know how to pull up patient information if I need to." That will give you a little bit of an edge because you've already got your foot in the door. So some types of positions you can look for that you can still put some of your skills to work, but aren't necessarily medical coding titles. Things like billing specialist, AR specialist, medical records clerk, data entry. We don't see as much data entry, but they are out there. Patient registration, medical office assistant, prior authorizations, insurance verification. Those are all things that can start getting you in the right direction. You're starting to work with codes, you're starting to work with medical records, but you're not a medical coder, perhaps by title just yet. Speaking of that, one thing I forgot with LinkedIn. So let's say you're looking for a medical coding job, right? But you're not working in medical coding just yet. You can change your title on LinkedIn so that it doesn't have to be what your job title is. Like my job title is CEO, but I think on my LinkedIn profile it just says like medical coder, medical auditor, content creator, etc. So you can change it to say certified professional coder. You can change it to say certified medical coder, certified inpatient coder. Um, it doesn't necessarily have to say where you are working right this moment. It can be whatever you wanna change it to, whatever you want to title yourself as to attract people to for them to know what your skills are or what type of jobs you might qualify for, right? Um, yeah, so that's another tip for LinkedIn. So, good question, what is a local chapter? So the AAPC, the American what formerly the American Academy of Professional Coders, now it's just the AAPC, has chapters all across the United States. Let me see if I can bring them up. And actually across the globe. And these local chapters are there historically to host exams, but they won't be hosting exams starting January 1 of this year, of next year. January 1 of next year. Um, and there's lots of them, and they host meetings. So they host virtual meetings, they host in-person meetings, and that's how you can get a lot of your continuing education units, and you can network with other people. They have lots of meetings where they'll bring in other medical coders, they'll bring in physicians, nurses, recruiters, professionals, thought leaders to come and speak to the chapter. You can get continuing education units. Sometimes they have seminars, sometimes they do networking events where you just come in and have coffee. But let's see, I can kind of show you on my account. Let me see if I can get into it. My chapter. So if you go to I always wanna be careful to make sure it doesn't display personal information that's on my account. So my local chapter is Reading, Pennsylvania. I used to be in the Allentown, Pennsylvania chapter, but I switched just because of my travel preferences. So you can switch your local chapter. You can find there's a directory of all the local chapters. So if you have one that you were automatically assigned to because it's closer to you, but you want to be participating in a different chapter, you can do that. So there is the information on mine. PC staff. Hold on. There used to be, I don't want to, again, show everything here. Where are we? My local chapter. Find a chapter. I think it's under, let's see here. Training and events. Oh, there it is. Here we go. Let's see if I can find it this way. Training and events, local chapter events. And you can find the local chapters that are near you. Now, if you are not in your AAPC account, you can't access, I think, a lot of the information because they don't want to put everyone's who's a chapter officer's emails and information publicly available. But you can see, like, there's lots of different chapters here in Pennsylvania, York, um, Reading I go to, Lancaster I go to. Sometimes I'll go out to the Philadelphia chapter if they're having good events. But you can subscribe to different chapters so that see what kind of events they're having, and depending on the chapter, oftentimes they'll let you go out to different, um a lot of times they'll let you participate in their chapter events as well. Yeah, Susan, thanks for taking care of that. Yeah, you can't earn CEUs until after you've been certified. So you need the continuing education units in order to maintain your credential. So there's no really need to have them before you've gotten your credential. So you can still go to chapter meetings if you're an AAPC member. Absolutely, you can, but you won't earn continuing education credits because you don't actually need those until you're certified, and you can't preemptively get them. But networking with your local chapter is a great way to start getting familiar with what's going on. There's so many supportive people in there. Let's talk about job search websites. We used to have a great website called Coders Direct where a lot of people found jobs. They sold it a little while ago and it looks like it's back up. I don't know what all is going on with that, but it would be great if we had another ultimate resource like that. But in the meantime, what else can we use? We have Indeed, tried and true, Google Jobs, tried and true. The AAPC has job boards. I think these are a little better if you are an experienced coder. The jobs that I've seen there in the past are more so for specialty designations versus entry-level designations. LinkedIn has job searches. You can search for jobs in LinkedIn. You can filter by experience. It depends on how they input it, if it's going to be accurate, that it's truly a entry-level position or not, because not everyone sets it up correctly. But that is something you can do if you are a new person who does not have experience in medical coding. You can filter Indeed, you can filter Google Jobs, you can filter LinkedIn to just give you entry-level jobs. I did find medical coding jobs too on Fairy God Boss. I believe that is specifically for promoting more so female positions, that they're like kind of like for female tech and female oriented geared to type of site, I guess. Built in, I found medical coding jobs at and flex jobs as well. So those are some alternatives that you can use if you've already done everything you can on Indeed, done everything you can on Google Jobs. One thing that I like to say when you're searching for jobs is so many people, when they type in what job they're looking for, they type in medical coder, right? There's a couple of different things you can do to get a broader scope of jobs that you might be qualified for. So you could try typing in just your certification, like CPC, and then bring up all of the jobs that are looking for CPCs. Or you can just start typing in some of those code sets that you're skilled in. So type in ICD-10 CM, and in Indeed.com, let's say, it will give you all of the jobs that are looking for someone who's skilled in ICD-10 CM. Now, some of them might be things like um, a nurse CDI specialist. Okay, so that one maybe not. But you might find a lot more jobs that are looking for someone that works in medical records or works in billing, that they just want someone who's familiar with these code sets, and your job title isn't going to be medical coder, but you'll still be using those skills. Excellent question from Diana. Can you use AAPC CEUs towards AHEMA certifications? Yes. AHEMA accepts all of AAPC's CEUs, but it doesn't always work vice versa. I think there's been some changes recently with AAPC, and I don't want to speak incorrectly, but I think that they do accept some AHEMA CEUs. I don't know what the criteria there is, but I know it is on their website. Some tips for writing a strong cover letter and resume. One of the first things I see when I look at someone's resume is their name right at the top, right? Now, oftentimes I've seen addresses below there. You don't really need to include your address. If you want, you can include your city and state, but you don't need to include your exact address. I don't think that's something people really need or want anymore. Um, but when I see your name up there and it says Mary Smith and you have a CPC, I wanted to say Mary Smith, comma, CPC. So it's right there. It's in your face. First thing you look at, there's your name, there's your credentials. So again, not all of the recruiters know all of the details about who's and what's and whys and all the medical record systems and that. They just know I was told to hire a CPC. They want to see that front and center on your resume. Quantify your achievements, right? So if you have a really high record of coding charts, like you can code more E&Ms than anyone in the history of ever, quantify that on your resume. Have you had any achievements in non-healthcare positions that you've worked in? Did you maybe get employee of the month or hit some customer satisfaction survey or assessment? Anything you can do that was an achievement, kind of speak to that in your resume. Clean design, clean layout, nice, simple font. Use the same font throughout your resume. It looks weird, and I know maybe not everyone picks up on it like I do, but if I see something that it's an Arial font, and then all of a sudden we've switched to Times New Roman, and then we're going to, Calibri font like that, I'm like, "What happened? Did they copy paste from different areas here, and this one's blue?" Like, keep everything as consistent as you can. Um, when you're listing your jobs, keep those concise too. We don't need 50 years work history. Keep it to 1 page, 2 page, a couple of bullet points for each job. Like, what are the top key things that you did at this job? Um, and again, any achievements, try to quantify them. Use the action words, coded but be very careful about using too many buzzwords. When I see too many buzzwords now, my immediate thought is ChatGPT. When I see, oh, the there's two things that will key me into that this was written by ChatGPT. Posts. Number 1, it starts with exciting news. Exciting news, blah, blah, blah. ChatGPT loves to start things with exciting news. Second thing is the buzzwords revolutionary, cutting edge, game changer. If I see those in a post, I know it was written by ChatGPT and I'm tuning out. Uh, so be careful with using too many of those buzzwords. It starts just getting a little, it starts looking, I think, giving a little bit of an air of fakeness to it. What about graduating with honors? Could that be added? Absolutely. I would list that in your education. So education where you went, graduated with honors. Yeah, absolutely. Paige is asking, is it better to have both a CPC and billing certification or a CPC okay to get started? I know they bundle those often a lot now. Um, so I don't think it's a bad idea to get both if you're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to cover all my corners. I'm going to get the bundle CPC and CPB. Depends on your personal preference of where you wanna start with the billing or the coding, but as far as can you get both? Yeah, absolutely. CPC is fine to get started, and if you wanna get another certification, down the line or right away afterwards, that's all up to you. You don't have to wait a certain period of time between certifications. So if you're like, "Hey, I don't know why you would wanna do this, but study for, like, 3 credentials at once and just bang them all out," you can absolutely do that, at least with the AEPC. So what are you gonna expect during the interview? There's gonna be some kind of medical coding assessment. "Victoria, I already passed a medical coding certification. Why am I getting an assessment?" Because they wanna know specifically that you are able to code cases that are similar to what you would see on the job. And that you aren't just a good test taker, because we do see that. We do see people that are just really good exam takers and really good at narrowing down multiple choice questions, but might struggle a little bit more when they're handed a case and have to code it from scratch. So they will provide oftentimes an assessment. I've seen some people that have had pretty extensive assessments for their organization, which I really don't agree with. I don't think they should take a candidate more than 30 minutes to an hour for an assessment, because you can really assess skills if you target the questions appropriately. But you will see out there that they might send you, if it's a E&M coding position, they might be like, "Here's 10 E&M charts, code them out." They might ask behavioral questions, things like, how do you react when you're working with a provider and they are, berating you and acting irrational? Or they might ask you things like, have you ever had an instance in the past where you've gotten very upset with a coworker, and how did you handle it? So you will get some of those behavioral questions in there. They might ask you technical questions. A big one that they like to ask is, "Oh, you're a new coder, but you don't have a coding job yet. What are you doing to stay up to date on the coding trends?" So this is where you want to interject and say things like, "Well, I've been going to my local chapter meetings. I've been reading Healthcare Business Monthly. I've been watching Victoria Mull on YouTube." So those are things that you want to have prepared your answers to. How have you been staying up to date? They might ask you company specific questions. Why do you want to work here? And here's what you do. You go onto the company website, you read their mission statement, and you figure out a way to kind of regurgitate what's in their mission statement. "Well, I heard that you are very patient driven, and I'm also very patient driven, so that's why I want to work here." And then they're going to ask you, "Do you have any questions for us?" And this is a great opportunity to ask some of those questions about how they support you in this role. So if you're going for a medical coding position, hey, do you offer reimbursement for CEUs? Do you offer time off if I wanna go to a seminar? Um, if do you have encoder products that you provide, or do I have to supply my own books? What software do you use? Do you have, a, uh, career ladder? So if I get well, you have to be careful about the career ladder, but if I get this job, is there, can I move into auditing? Can I move into that? You do have to be careful about that, because I say this, sometimes employers wanna keep you in a position for a while, so they don't wanna see that you're eager to just take this position just to move into another position. So be careful when you're acquiring a little bit about the career ladder. Don't try to come off too desperate, like you're just trying to get this position to move into another position. So you wanna make sure that this is a good fit for you, as well as a good fit for them. So in conclusion, here's a bunch of things that I had ChatGPT write to sound really motivational, and then I was gonna put my name on it, and I thought, "You know what? I'm not gonna take credit for something I didn't write." But it's a journey, and you have to have an exam strategy, and you have to have a job search strategy. You can do things like track different job titles in a spreadsheet. You can job applications that you've put in a spreadsheet. There are Facebook groups you can join, like Jobs for American Medical Coders. There's some HCC or risk adjustment groups where recruiters are in and they post jobs. So take advantage of those, take advantage of the groups that are out there, connect with as many recruiters as you can on LinkedIn so that when they're posting jobs, it pops up in your feed. So there's opportunities out there, and I'm trying to give everyone the best chance they can to know what's going on. Here's a good question. I took a self-study from a HEMA called VLab for 6 months, which lets you get practice with encoder software. I think it was valuable, but I don't know how to phrase it best to help towards encoder software experience. A couple of things I would do. Um, so if you have that encoder software experience, I would list that as a skill on LinkedIn, encoder. And if you have on your resume, I know some people do list their skills on there. I would list it there as well. Otherwise, if you did maybe you did self-study with the HEMA. So if you did you do the CCS or the RHIT that maybe you could list under your credentials, let's say, for example, CCS completed VLab encoder software training. That's where I would make sure I put it. John saying these behavioral questions might give insight into the job you're interviewing for. If they ask about how you handle verbally overbearing providers, that means this is a common scenario in this role. It could be, not always. I used to get asked that by providers as well, or by people that were interviewing me as well. And it didn't always mean that. It just kind of sometimes they want to pick your brain about how you handle pressure. And oftentimes when you're applying for jobs, they will give you that personality test before the application. Always answer those as though it's like a good day and you're the best version of yourself. I'm not saying don't tell them that you are cool and calm as a cucumber at all times and nothing stresses you out. But when you're answering those questions, kind of think, okay, if I'm having a good day and I'm my best version of myself, how would I handle this tricky situation? All right, my friends, I am going to actually end a little bit early today. Believe it or not, I have a video visit, so I have personal doctor stuff I need to get to. I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today on the live stream. I will be back, I believe, next week. So I'll see you guys soon. And until then, just keep on coding on.